Hello, I'm Jodie Stewart. How much do you understand about how disasters are managed across the Bega Valley Shire? Would you like to know more about better preparing Eden and surrounding villages for future disasters? Tune in to Prepared for Disaster every Wednesday morning at 11, right here on 2SEA, as I share useful information and chat to good people doing great things in preparedness, recovery and community resilience. Prepared for Disaster. It's all about building stronger, prepared local communities, ready to face more frequent disasters. Welcome to the Prepared for Disaster program, a new program about communities and disasters. I'm your host, Jodie Stewart, and I'm the Disaster Preparedness Coordinator for the Eden Community Access Centre. I'll be joining you fortnightly as we undertake a series of conversations about disasters and the role that communities do and can play in response to increasing disaster events. This show is produced and broadcast on the lands of the Thawa people of the Yuin Nation. I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present and to all First Nations people joining us today. I would also like to acknowledge First Nations sovereignty of the lands, air and waters, and that this sovereignty was never ceded. This is, was and always will be First Nations land. Now, a trigger warning for those listening to our show today. In this show, we will be discussing disasters and their impact. Some content may be distressing. Please look after yourself while listening. Or if you think this is not for you, you can come back to the broadcast in about an hour's time. The Prepared for Disaster program is part of the Disaster Preparedness Project. The Disaster Preparedness Project is an Eden Community Access Centre initiative. The project is funded through the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority, which was formerly Resilience New South Wales, and is a 2-year funded initiative. So hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Prepared for Disaster program. Today we'll be chatting with Carina Severs, who is a Nethercote community member and manager of the Eden Community Access Centre. We'll also be chatting to Peter Skelton, who's an Eden community member. He's the coordinator of the Eden Community Pantry, and he's a chair of the Eden Community Access Centre board. Now, I've invited Peter and Carina onto the show today to talk with us about the role of community organisations in disaster. But first, we're going to have a song. Now, this song was selected by Peter Skelton. It's the Swimming Song by sisters Kate and Anne McGarrigle. Now, Peter selected this song because even though it's not very well known, it certainly should be. Okay, so let's hear from sisters Kate and Anne McGarrigle, the Swimming Song. Welcome back to Prepared for Disaster. If you are just joining us, you are listening to Prepared for Disaster episode 2, and I'm your host, Jodie Stewart. I'm the Disaster Preparedness Coordinator for the Eden Community Access Centre. Prepared for Disaster is a show about the important role communities play in disaster. Now, I'm joined today by Carina Severs from the Eden Community Access Centre and Peter Skelton, Coordinator of the Eden Community Pantry. Peter and Carina are joining us today to talk about the role of community organisations in disaster. Now, community organisations play an important role within communities, often providing a range of important support services from food support to counselling support and referral, financial support, IT support. They also often provide a place for that all-important social connection, a friendly face, the opportunity to have a cuppa and a chat. Now, I want to start with you, Carina. Can you tell me a little bit about the Access Centre and the services the centre provides to the community?
Thanks, Jodie. So, for those that don't know much about the Access Centre, it does provide lots and lots of services to the community, and that includes that cuppa and a chat. You know, it's a friendly face. We're an advocate. We can help with all sorts of things. So the Eden Community Access Centre had its beginnings back in 2000, and that was as a technology centre. So it's been around for over 22 years, nearly 23 years. So it provided much needed basic computer assistance and courses to help transition people into a digital world. Now the community centre It's known as being an independent organisation with a history of service to the community. So its aims closely align with seeking overall development of Eden, both socially and economically. And it's become regarded as a go-to organisation and place in Eden where visitors, residents and businesses connect with social, community and business support services. The Access Centre has diversified and now facilitates access to a full range of services, and we bridge service delivery gaps. So things such as the Centrelink agency, we offer a full range of services that a full-on Centrelink office can offer, but we do ours generally over the phone or via your MyGov account. So we can help with all sorts of things to do with Centrelink. One of the bigger things that we do is auspicing at the moment, and we've been doing that for several years now, and that facilitates people with ideas and groups with ideas to get those ideas realised. We offer computer courses, we support work and development orders, so that's when people don't have the financial capability to repay fines. It might be parking fines, it might be speeding fines. So basically in that sort of a line, they can come and do voluntary work with us, and that will work off your fine. We also support people that are over 60 to meet their mutual obligations, their Centrelink mutual obligations. So again, you can come and volunteer at the centre, and those hours will be recognised as part of your mutual obligation as a job seeker. And of course, we also offer computer tech help. And to that end, we've developed the Eden Tech Centre, and we have a staff member on hand with a great background in computer maintenance and servicing. So it's it's becoming a really what can I say? It's a stopgap, go-to type of a service in our community, because we don't actually have a computer shop anymore in town. We did have, but he's gone on to bigger and better things. So
yeah, and IT is IT support.
Yeah, it's really quite crucial.
Yes, very crucial and very important
in today's world.
And I have my office at the ECAC building, and I can certainly vouch for the inclusivity of ECAC and all the wonderful volunteers there. It's been an amazing place to work and be able to come to every day. So thanks, Carina. Peter, can you tell us a little bit about the Eden Community Pantry? What is it? What is it? And what?
A little bit of history first, I think. It just grew organically out of our Garden of Eden community project, and people from community and our church at the Uniting Church run the Garden of Eden community project and advise about the how the pantry will run. Because the Garden of Eden community project sounds like just gardening, but no, we do hampers, building, and the pantry is part of it. So the pantry's been going for about 4 years. And it came about just as a part of our conversation with community and our church, including our church community, of the need for food security in town. And it seemed like a much better way to help people than have what's normally regarded as, charity. You call up someone, they come, and you're asking for help. I'm desperate. No, anyone can come to the pantry, no restrictions. And it just looks like a shop, and it feels like a shop when you're there, only it's much more friendly. And much more friendly and welcoming. We usually have a cup of tea and a bit of cake, if you're lucky. And we see it as part of our church's outreach to the community to help where we can. We have on Friday, as part of it, we have, in collaboration with other services, people who are rather desperate just for a moment, if you like, who can get hampers. So it's a not-for-profit. So everything in the pantry is at a small price. Most of it is purchased with a pallet or two that comes from Food Bank, another charity in Sydney. And some is donated from Woolworths and Coles, Aldi, the Wild Rise in Pambula, the bakery, but we also have associations with the Mission Australia, Campbell Page, the Salvation Army, many other places that have helped in the past to keep it running. The association keeps it running. It's a place. It's an important place to volunteer as well. People are looking for a place where they can serve community, so we're always looking for volunteers as well.
Awesome. Coffee, tea, cake, shopping.
It's got it all.
A place to serve your community. What more could you want? Thank you so much, Peter. Now, I want to come back to you, Carina. During the 2019-2020 bushfires, the Access Centre provided really invaluable support to the people of Eden and surrounds. So I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about that.
I can. So it it happened by accident, really. People just started flooding through our doors, needing support, needing help, needing direction, needing access to services. And so, as my volunteers do, they just turned their hand to whatever was needed. And that was all sorts of advocacy services. It was making phone calls on behalf of people. And you've got to realise people were, after the fires, they were desperate. They had, in some cases, lost everything. They were upset. So all these emotions going on, and then they were being asked to, fill in forms they had to find accommodation, they had to find food, they had to find clothes, they had to find cash, all those types of things. And so the Eden Community Access Centre helped out with those things. They coordinated some other support from other services. We obviously didn't do it all alone, we just filled a gap. And we referred a lot of people on to organisations such as St Vincent de Paul or St Vinny's locally, Anglicare, all services like that which could help with the after disaster care. We advocated for hundreds of people. We coordinated service provision. We even provided operational space and equipment to the ADF. So as I said, we turned our hand to whatever was required, but during that time we realised that we didn't have a designated place in Eden that people could go, yes, that's the place I go to, that's where I go to find out where things are. So more of a place that I had an understanding of everything that was available and could direct people. So I guess that was the role that we stepped into. We facilitated support and access to Centrelink crisis payments, to food and fuel vouchers, to accommodation. We helped with grant applications, and as you know, individuals that had lost everything were eligible for Red Cross applications, but of course these applications required paperwork to be completed, identification to be done and all that. So the Eden Community Access Centre volunteers supported people through that process, through completing the forms for people and submitting those forms.
Yeah, and that's really important, isn't it?
Because, it really is.
In terms of trauma and the way that that affects our brains, we're often unable to grapple with all the things that need to be done in order to access support.
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to have that one place to go to. You have a friendly face, you have people offering to support you to access those support services. Yeah. That's really, really valuable.
And people, like we advocated, we made phone calls. As I said, we helped to fill out forms, we submitted forms, we have JP services available, all that type of thing. So we basically turned our hand to whatever was needed. Whatever people come through the door and required, we tried to help them.
Yeah, awesome. Now, Peter, obviously food security is of vital importance during and after disaster events. Can you talk to us a little bit about the role of the pantry during and after the 2019 and 2020 bushfires?
Yeah, food security certainly was part of what we did as a pantry, but we found we were much more. The need was much greater than food. The pantry had been going for 8 months or so. And so luckily we had started it, and we were known. We were a known and trusted organisation by the time the disaster struck in early January 2020. And so people want to instantly connect with something they know. And my wife and I, Pam, had lived in Toowoomba for a long while. We'd also lived in Kaya for a long while, been community members there. And so they were the areas that were probably most affected, that were nearer to Eden, and people were coming from there to get assistance. So we knew a lot of the people already. We knew their prior story, and now they had a new story that they needed to tell. They needed to get help. They needed to refer their friends, even if they didn't need help themselves. So as far as food security went, we found that, yes, there was so many people who were willing to donate at the very start. When food, certainly during January, food could have been a very urgent issue because roads were blocked the whole time. Victoria was out that route, and it was a moving feast about where you got food from the north as well. Was it going to come through Canberra? Was it going to come through Bega? No, it's blocked down the coast at Nowra, can't get through. So, to have just the thought that Eden people might have had that someone was looking out for them. There were also people in council, of course, who were looking out for them, and the food transport people. They were all doing their very best. But after the disaster, it didn't stop there, because people were, yes, they weren't desperately hungry probably in the bush, but their resources were so far down, and their psychological resources were so far down, that for someone to offer them, can we turn up to your place with some meals, or do you want to come in and pick them up for your friends or yourselves or whatever? Can we distribute for someone else? So we were associated with Oz Harvest, who were providing support for a couple of years, Hello Fresh for about a year, in almost ready-made meals. We received money that we were able to hand out to people who needed a pump or a tank or a cupboard to keep the mice out or whatever. We got money from multicultural organisations, from the Uniting Church in Canberra and New South Wales, and other congregations. Social justice advocates was a great connection. Individuals who we had known in the past, who had contact with us and with Eden and felt a connection. So just having a group that was already connected to the community and trusted, people were willing to use that as a viaduct for help. So many of them, I don't know what they would have done without it. We're also a place, of course, that because we knew community, we're able to refer. You need to go to the Access Centre. Yours is forms. Yours is IT or whatever. Yeah. Or you need to go to Red Cross. It sounds like you need their disaster help. So there are also spontaneous groups that sprang up in town, and many other groups who were paid, who came into the community from Social Security or from government, New South Wales government, federal government, local government, and they came in to help with the disaster. But gradually, and sometimes suddenly, they go. And they're not replaced by someone often. Okay, the immediate need's gone, but it's the people who are left who satisfy those needs as they crop up.
The ongoing needs.
Yeah, the ongoing needs, and certainly the Access Centre has done that, Community Pantry, and many other organisations within our community. And the value of having those community organisations already existing when disaster struck was immeasurable. You don't get time to start them up.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I think that's the connective thread. I mean, there's obviously very many connective threads that connects the Access Centre and the pantry, but it's having that place that is trusted, and people that are that you can go to, that you trust and have confidence in, and you feel safe being there and approaching them is so valuable, as you've both pointed out. Now we're going to take a quick break. We're going to have a musical break. Now I've asked Carina to select a song for us, and we're going to hear from James Morrison, I Won't Let You Go, which was one of Carina's picks. Why did you choose that song, Carina?
I think it reminds me of my children and the connection with my children. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's hear James Morrison. I Won't Let You Go. Hello and welcome back to Prepared for Disaster. You were just listening to James Morrison and I Won't Let You Go. That was a song picked by Carina Severs. I'm joined by Carina Severs from the Eden Community Access Centre and Peter Skelton from the Eden Community Pantry, and we're talking about the important role that community organisations play in disaster. Now, while that song was playing for you all listeners, we're having a discussion about the anti-service radio station. And I'm thinking of Peter Skelton, one of my guests, who was responsible with David Richardson for accessing the grant to set up this radio station. Peter, tell us about it. Tell our listeners.
It's a matter of being in the right place at the right time. And I was on the radio station committee before there was ever a radio station. This is actually my first time being on the radio too. And yes, it was when the fishing industry was going through restructuring, we applied for a grant to the Department of Primary Industry, federal one, and it was good timing because I wanted to get money to Eden because there was an economic downturn. Cannery had just closed as well, and so we applied and got about $35,000, which initially set up all the equipment, antennas, everything Jodie's looking at now and playing with, although these would be the new updated versions of them. Yeah, but all the facilities and allowed for your initial hiring, and then we set up a economic structure to make it sustainable into the future, which of course is dependent on community sponsorship. So thank you all the businesses and individuals who do sponsor the community radio. Oh, and it was also related to disaster, because in the application we said that we needed a place that our community could express our needs during disaster and the contact point during disaster for what's happening.
Wonderful. What a wonderful story. Look, I want to have a little bit of, and obviously this is very much part of the story of the development of the radio show, because a very big part of disaster is recovery. And obviously radio shows, community radio is important for recovery, but also community organisations. Now, recovery from disaster can be a long and winding road. It's also a journey without an end point, as both of you have probably realised. So I was wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about what you see as the role of community organisations in recovery, and I'd like to start with you, Carina.
Thanks, Jodie. So I guess as I said, the Access Centre become an accidental place following the fires, but I think now we understand that it's a natural choice of places to go in our community. I mean, we didn't realise it before, but now we do, because that's where people came, as they did to the pantry. They came to us for help. And so obviously the community recognises the Access Centre as a place where they can get that help. So following the fires of 2020, we've been successful in receiving funding support for our community in a variety of ways, and that's to support not just the immediate issues but ongoing. So in that recovery space, we received money for the Rural Support Worker program. That was a program where we hired locals to go out into the community to support individuals to get the help that they needed, so especially people located in rural and remote areas. And that was across the Shire. So we hired probably 10 or a dozen people to go out and provide that service. And it was both a practical service as well as a sort of a mental health service as well, you know, that cuppa and a chat, and help to facilitate people moving ahead with their lives. We also receive funding for the disaster preparation strategy, and that's this radio show is a part of that strategy. A part of that strategy is the project lab, and that's started already. It's no longer just under development, but it's made a start in the community, and that's where people can get support to realise their project, especially in regards to disaster and recovery. So they meet once a month, and anybody is welcome to attend those meetings. You just need to contact us. We'll give you the times and the dates and what have you. We also receive money to run community events, and those events are ongoing at the moment. All types of events in our community, from painting to music, to pop-up choirs, all sorts of things. We also continue to produce the Eden Connection. So that's our newsletter, our local newsletter, and that goes out once a month. That's produced by our volunteers. We're always asking for the community to contribute to that. So if you have any interesting stories, any interesting commentary, or if you'd just like to support us by buying a little bit of advertising space to help pay for it, because the costs of producing it every month are quite onerous. So our volunteers, again, do all sorts of community fundraising to support the production of that newsletter. The latest event that we've received some funding for is the Reducing the Risk, and that's a youth resilience type program. And you'll be hearing more about that as time goes on. Hopefully Jodie will be interviewing our coordinator, which is John Ricks, about some of the services and some of the activities that he'll be doing in that space. One of those activities is a gaming program development, and that'll be based out the Eden Marine High School. So we've got lots of things going on.
Lots of things going on in the recovery space. Yeah. And it's interesting that the newsletter is called the Eden Connection, because connection and connecting to your community is such a vital part of the recovery process. And I'm glad you brought up the lab, because I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about the project lab at the end of the program today, because we're very, very excited about our project lab. And the benefits that we can see will flow on to the community from this initiative. Yeah. So Peter, I want to ask you that question as well in terms of recovery efforts, because I understand that the pantry's been quite heavily involved in assisting recovery efforts in the area. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Immediately, of course, was very different to medium term, and now we're still doing recovery, and probably will be for the next 7 to 10 years. I don't see it going away. No. So, of course, one thing that happened was COVID hit a couple of months after the fires, which changed everything. But we were there. We regarded ourselves as being there for the long term and supporting people. So when COVID hit, we could have said, not enough volunteers, it's really difficult health-wise, let's shut down. But we regarded ourselves as an essential service. When the government said only essential services are allowed to be open, we just stayed open. And people came if they felt the need, and we still had a continual flow of people who were needing help, and especially we were looking at people who are very vulnerable after the fires, and we thought we can't be shutting down. It's hard to decide, which group you're working for. Sometimes, are they just the people I know because they called me up, or are they because they've called into the pantry? But that's a difficulty we all have to work through, I suppose, where your allegiance lies. But even during COVID, we found people very respectful and understanding. We didn't have any fights in the aisles for toilet paper. We just took it home ourselves. No, we didn't.
The Skelton stockpile.
We had a similar experience. We kept the Access Centre open as well. We were lucky enough, the Department of Children's Services gave us a hand washing station, and the Eden Community Pantry gave us masks and hand wash. So yeah, we didn't consider closing.
Yeah, it was certainly a difficult time, particularly straight after a very large and catastrophic disaster event. So it's sort of those compounding traumas and cascading disaster events that create a real challenge for the community. But it's it also brings people together. And it's a real credit to organisations like the Pantry and ECAC to be able to continue to support community, particularly when you have community members who are working for those organisations that are also impacted by these disasters, but continue to show up and support the community. Now I'm going to play a song. Now this is a song by Kate Bush, made very, very famous. It's had a resurgence due to a little old show called Stranger Things. It's called Running Up That Hill, and I think it speaks to the recovery journey. It can be like running up a very steep hill, but with organisations like the Pantry and ECAC, let's hope that running up that hill is a smoother journey. So we're going to hear from Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill. Hello, that was Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill. And if you're just joining us, this is Prepared for Disaster episode 2. Prepared for Disaster is a show about communities and disaster. And if you are just joining us, you've missed the bulk of a very fascinating conversation. I'm here with Carina Severs from the Eden Community Access Centre and Peter Skelton from the Eden Community Pantry. And they're talking with us about the vital role that community organisations play in disaster. Now, I want to ask you both a question as we draw to a close today. Now, this was a question that we asked of our Resilient Eden workshop participants. We held 2 workshops at the end of November, 2 Resilient Eden workshops, and we asked our participants to discuss amongst themselves the responses to this question, and that is, what does a well-prepared and resilient Eden and surrounds look like to you? What is your vision for a stronger, more resilient Eden and surrounds? Carina, I'll start with you. Big question.
Yeah, it is a big question. So I guess for me, what I would like to see, if we do ever experience a disaster again, and God forbid, but I'd like our community to feel more confident, and by community I mean all the individuals that make up that community and the groups that make up that community, to feel more confident about the decisions they make for themselves in relation to that disaster. I would also like to hope that they not only consider themselves, but their neighbours, their friends and family, and how they are coping. And if there's anything that they can do to support their neighbours, their friends and their family. I'd like to see a better understanding of what we have available to us locally, what the capacity and capability of our local RFS is, of our local SES, of the Marine Rescue, of all those services, all made up by volunteers, what they're capable of doing and what I can do as an individual to support them to keep doing what they do. The last thing I would like, or another thing, it's not the last thing because I have a never-ending list, I'd like to see people step up and take responsibility for not only themselves, but again their neighbours and their friends and their family, and think about those leadership type roles. And it's, you're not going to be labelled as a leader necessarily, but to be more responsible for yourself and for others, and more independent So that's what I'd like, and not so reliant on services coming into our community to take control and look after us and provide that silver bullet, because it doesn't exist. We understood that during and after the fires. We understood that during and after COVID. I think we need to take more responsibility for ourselves.
Thank you, Carina. Absolutely, the power is in our hands. Peter,
it is, yeah.
How would you respond to that?
Well, I'm just going to plagiarise now.
Plagiarise me?
No, we're about to plagiarise you. You've stole one of my points. I think leadership within our community is really important, and leadership starts with training leaders right down at preschool level, if you like, and up to into their aged people. And I'd love to see, people stepping up, learning how to be leaders within their community, within their neighbourhood, within their family, within their street. It's just all really important to, for a start, preparing for disaster, to have people who are confident leaders who know other people. And another bit of my plagiarising is from last week. A good quote that I heard last week was from Jodie. She'll be very proud of this. Creating a community of care, working together and investing in each other. Creating a community of care, working together and investing in each other. Can you imagine what our community would look like if we were able to manage that? We would have strong social networks. We would have resilience within our basic services, as you said, Carina.
Independence.
Independence, because we would be able to manage our things ourselves, because we'd be looking after our neighbours, we'd have local commerce, we'd be able to manage our basic services ourselves at the limit, community battery, community energy services, community water supply. Many other communities do it, not just in Australia, but around the world. Yeah, and we would be a strong town. I don't think we are a town that is too large that we can't know important people within our community. We can't know our neighbours. We can't recognise a lot of people. It's only, up to nearly 4,000 people. We should be able to connect with a lot of those people. It's not out of our control.
Care for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can start small, can't it? Just knowing your neighbour.
Yes. And I've been reading a book called Prosperity Without Growth. And I don't think that it's going to be more things that are going to make us happier, that are going to make us ready for disaster, it's going to be more equity, it's going to be more community connection, which will make people feel happy and involved in other people's lives, which brings them satisfaction.
Awesome. And it's good to hear that we're all singing from the same songbook, because one of the taglines of the Disaster Preparedness Project is that a well-connected community is a well-prepared community.
Yeah.
Well said, both. Before we go today, I want to talk about the Project Lab, because we had our very first Project Lab session on February the 2nd.
How good was that?
What a session it was. 13 passionate community members attended and brought with them some fabulous ideas for community projects. We were expecting 5, we got 13, we were overwhelmed. Now, some of these projects include a digital information sign for Eden Surrounds, a community-led resilience team that supports the community's most vulnerable residents. Again, Peter and Carina, that communities of care model, and investigating places of last resort based on a really successful Victorian model. Now, just to reiterate, the Project Lab is a space for community to come to be supported to develop project ideas. We have Project Lab mentors there from the Disaster Preparedness Project, from the Eden Community Access Centre, from the Bega Valley Shire Council. So we encourage everyone to come along. You don't need to have a project idea. You can just come along and see and hear what we're all about, have a chat. It's also a really great place to meet some really fantastic people. It's a place for social connection. Come and have a lovely meal with us. We welcome everyone. Now, Peter Skelton, you were one of our Project Lab participants. Can you talk to us about your Project Lab experience?
That was very new to me. I came unawares of what was going to happen. But I thought, this is great. This is not just a talk fest. This is rubber hits the road stuff. Someone comes along with an idea, and then the direction from there is you choose, round the room, which idea grabs you at the time, which one you have a heart for, and which one you'd like to follow through on. And more ideas were arising all the time, people mentioning them. So, and then the next discussion, of course, was, and what can we do about this? How can it be implemented? How can it reach fruition, if you like? And so in many ways it was like, don't aim too high. Once you have that question about how can we implement it, then you're interested in what is reachable rather than just what are we going to talk about and these are the big issues. And no, it's what we can do in our small corner.
Absolutely. And we can support projects big and small. So it could be a walking group in your neighbourhood, or it could be a digital sign. We're there to support and encourage and nurture these project ideas. So thank you for coming along, Peter. Do return. Our next project lab is Thursday the 16th of February. Our project lab is held every fortnight at the Eden Library event space. So yes, please do come along. Bring your enthusiasm, bring your project ideas, bring some empty stomachs because we'll have some yummy food as well. And we hope to welcome you all there. So this is a wrap on our second episode of Prepared for Disaster. I want to give a great big thank you, warm appreciation to Carina Severs from the Eden Community Access Centre and Peter Skelton
Thank you.
from
Most
the
enjoyable.
Eden Community
Jodie.
Pantry.
Had a
Thank
lovely
you.
time.
Thank you so much for coming along. I've learnt some things today. I've had a great chat.
Thanks, Jodie.
Make sure you tune in next Wednesday fortnight on the 22nd when we'll be chatting with co-owner of Eden Antiques and Old Wares and Chamber President Eric Wolski and operator of Cat Baloo Lana Wills, and they're coming along to chat to us about the business community and disaster preparedness and recovery. You can tune in with us next week. This program will be repeated if you want to listen again, or if you want to tell a friend all about this wonderful show. Thank you all for joining us. I look forward to joining you again in a fortnight.